Well, welcome to Ordinary People, Extraordinary Things. I'm here with Neil. Neil, thanks for being on.
So excited to be here today. So excited. I
I'm
haven't done I haven't done a guest appearance and I can't tell you when because I don't remember the last time, but it was good. All the times I've done them, they've been good. I just like hosting more than I like guesting.
well, I'm glad you said yes. Neil is the host of Other People's Shoes. So we will definitely link that. And he was so gracious to have me on a few weeks ago. So I'm excited to hear a little bit of his story.
Yeah, it is your story is pretty incredible too. We were in this deer series, and so we're on the verge of wrapping that up. But your story about your grandfather and just how you're helping people save those precious memories and how to create those to me is really amazing and extraordinary all in itself, if I do say so myself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, if people don't know who you are, can you give three words or phrases to describe yourself?
Three. I'm gonna do four because I have a
Okay.
thing against three, if that's okay. So, um, the first thing I would say, first phrase is husband. So that's one. Second phrase I would say is Tar Heel. So that's two. Third phrase I would say is podcast, and I should have probably let off with disciple, but I got the order mixed up, but you can mix them around and make them however you want.
That was perfect. What was the second one? What's that mean?
Tar Heel. I think
Yeah.
I probably said, yeah. So a Tar Heel is the mascot or the nickname for the state of North Carolina. It is also the mascot nickname for the University of North Carolina. So I am a big Tar Heels fan. And I know today it
Oh,
doesn't look like it because I'm wearing my Seahawks jersey, but I always have a little North Carolina Tar Heel with me everywhere I go. So
and did you go to that school?
I have been to the school. I will say I did not graduate from there, no. But I'm just a huge fan. I became a fan when I was in sixth grade. So what is that, 11 or 12, and just never looked back.
Wow.
And and now everything in my life and wardrobe and I mean, outside of Christ is probably the next thing, the next marker you could identify me with is the marker of being a Tar Heels fan. So,
Oh,
yes.
all right. Thank you for those.
Yes, passionate about it, as you can tell.
Yeah. So, in the Christian world, we would say share your testimony. And if you're
Yeah.
not into Christian lingo, it just means how did you come to faith, right?
Yeah. No,
Let's
that
dumb
that
it down a bit, right?
yeah.
What does that mean? So,
Yeah. That's a
so
great
how did you come to faith?
That's a great question. I love that one. So I was a church kid. I was an Awana kid. Awana basically like the Cub Scouts for church. I remember going to that, and I remember we had a guy in our group who was kind of overseeing the misfits that was us as kids, um, from all walks of life. By the way, because we went to church in First Baptist Church of Carlsbad, which, as far as I know, that church doesn't exist any longer, but the building does, but the name does not. Any event, I had this guy named John, bald guy. I remember that about him. I don't much more than that, but he prayed for us every single week for us to have a saving type faith or a Jesus encounter. And I remember towards the end of Awana's one night, they had like an altar call, and I remember going forward, probably at the age of 9 or 10, somewhere in that frame, and I knew something needed to change in my life because John was very good about telling us what sin was and what it looked like. And if we had it, kind of like bacteria or plank or cavities or stuff in our teeth that get on our teeth, cavities, tartar buildup, kind of like that. He always articulated it that way. And so he's like, it's sin. You can't see it, just like this tartar buildup in your mouth. I'm like, was he a hygienist? I don't know. He could have been, but again, I don't remember. But he said, if you have that stuff in your life, you got to get rid of it. You got to clean it out. And I just remember feeling just gross all the time. And I remember I needed something to make me clean. Now, what that was, I didn't know at the time it was Jesus till John kind of articulated again that out to us. But I remember walking the aisle and I remember saying like a sinner's prayer. Some are familiar with that, perhaps if they grew up around the church setting. And I thought, okay, good. I'm great. I'm good. I'm golden. I'm perfect. And he's like, well, you should probably get baptized. And I was like, cool. I get to be up front in the big fish tank with yeah, let's do that. That sounds fun. And so I did that too. I got baptized again very young. And for me, it was one of those moments that I thought, okay, awesome. I made this great step of faith. But Monday came and I
Mhm.
still was the same Neil. I still was the goofy, annoying, bad mouthing his mom and dad kid and very angry. And I really thought Jesus would come in and take all that away.
Mm,
Well, there was no real quote unquote discipleship like I know now. And to me, it was sad. If I could time travel somehow, I would probably pull that 9-year-old me aside, sock him in the face first because he's probably a punk. But then after he stopped crying, I'd probably put my arm around him and just remind him that yes, even though he's angry, Jesus has so much more for him.
mm,
Because at the age of 16, he's going to discover who Jesus really is. And that's what happened at 16 is I really hit my knees in a very weak, sad moment in my life emotionally and really cried out to God, I think for the first time in genuineness, unlike 9, and said, God, use me. Here I am. And that's really when I say my faith really kind of became my own and not from the Awana kid or the church type setting that I grew up in.
mm. What happened at 16?
Well, I think a
What
lot of
what
things
changed?
happened at, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think a
yeah,
lot,
right?
yeah. I think a lot of things happen at 16. I think girls happen at 16. I think, I think for me at 16, I really truly said and discovered that I couldn't have a faith of someone else. I couldn't have the faith of people I saw or mentors that were maybe in my life. I had to make it my own. And it's this I can't exactly pinpoint it or put a pin in it exactly, but I will say it was a church type camp experience and a camp high for those again who have been in the church circle, you know what I refer to. This experience of like, man, your emotions are just all over the place and you're in a very vulnerable spot. And I think the speaker just hit it just right. Again, he didn't articulate it with tartar buildup on our teeth. No, he referred to it as the cross.
Mm,
And there are things that you've done in your life that really have separated you from Christ, that have kept you away from him. And write those down and let's pin them to the cross tonight. One of those type kind of fireside moments. And I remember pinning stuff to the cross, my thought life, my, you know, my ability to just manipulate people was also one of the things I think I wrote down. But the big one was my thought life because at that time at 16 I did not have the purest of thoughts and I wasn't taking every thought captive like we so often should or I so often should and others should as well. And so I think that was the big kind of turning moment in my life to say, okay, something needs to be different and something truly needs to happen. So
no, that's good. I feel like a lot of people can relate to that and just growing in your faith. And yes, you made a decision, but maybe you weren't quite there yet. And I like that you shared that with us. You mentioned discipleship. What did that mean to you?
well, I'll tell you, I just really truly learned about discipleship probably about 10 years ago. I grew up in a church setting. Now I wouldn't say our house was quote unquote Christian per se. My it's not like my dad would do daily devotionals or nightly prayers or anything like that, which is so weird. But he just didn't do that. And nor did my mom. But Christ was in our home, like we knew who he was, but he wasn't the key figure like he should be. So again, back to discipleship. I grew up kind of in that environment, and so I even got into youth ministry. I became a youth pastor, an associate pastor at a church, and I just thought, man, you just teach people about Jesus, and that's it, and the kids will get it, and that's fine. And I never again thought of or was taught, and not that they're wrong for not teaching me or whatever. I just again wasn't taught that, and so I grew up and got into ministry where you just taught kids on Sunday and that was it. You taught kids on Wednesday, that was it. You never really did anything other than that. You really hoped your talk on Sunday and even on youth group nights would take and just they would just blossom from it. They'd just naturally get it. And the reality of it is that's not how that works. And so I ended up leaving that church for various reasons and ended up starting at a new church, ironically enough, called New Beginnings, where I'm currently at. And they have a big focus on one on one discipleship. And for the first time, I was like, wait, what is this discipleship stuff? I started getting discipled by older men in the church and even some of my peers, like helping me kind of get off some of my rough edges and some of the things that God has maybe been working on me that I didn't want to own up to or maybe kind of hide or shy away from. And these men are very bold and vocal and like, no, you got to get that out of your life.
Mm.
And so for the first time, here I am getting discipled. And I'm like, whoa, that's how you do it. And then that then carried over into youth group. I'm like, oh, that's how we now minister to kids is through discipleship. So to me, the discipleship was the last piece. If we're playing like a Trivial Pursuit, is the last I to kind of complete that circle for me to say, oh yes, we're finally winning the day on that. So
Yeah, I feel like that's another word that we can use in the Christian world and not really know what it means.
I would agree. And I think a lot of times, again, I think people think they're doing discipleship, but are they really? Are they knee deep in it with somebody? Are they walking through the mud and the mire and the just crap
Mhm.
to really dig deep in with somebody and walk truly with them and try to help them understand and pull them along with you?
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. So, not having the niceties, but being able to really someone knows who you are and you know who they are so you can refine each other.
Absolutely. Iron sharpens iron,
Right.
scripture says. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's really good. Well, you said you don't like threes. And I was thinking of the Trinity when we hear of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Um, so that I was wondering if that was one of the reasons you didn't like threes. Uh,
I listen, that's probably the only good thing about the three. Okay. And probably the second being, it took 3 days, he's, 3 days he's raised to life again. I don't know. Three to me, it's an odd number, obviously, on more ways than one. It is an odd number, but for me also, three just feels like it's not complete. Four, like I'm wearing right now, I have a jersey on that has a number four on it. Four to me feels more whole, like everyone gets a piece. Three, it feels like somebody's left out.
mm,
So outside of the Trinity, outside of Jesus's death, burial, and resurrection, on the 3 days, yes, I will concede that point that three is okay in those environments, but the number just is I don't know if there's a thing called EBGBs, but I don't know. Three just seems to be a bad thing sometimes for me. That seems to always come in threes also, by the way. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
yeah, that is a thing, don't they say? Like the third thing is gonna drop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Four is my favorite number too, so I'll throw that out there.
There you go. See?
So I
And
was
if anyone likes the Enneagram, I don't know if that's still a thing. That was a thing a couple of years back. I think it's still in some circles. I'm an Enneagram 4. So for those Enneagram fans out there, now you know I'm also a 4. So
which one is that?
I think it's the romantic. That's all
Okay.
I remember it being. I don't know. I don't really subscribe to the Enneagram stuff anymore. So, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what that number is. All
Yeah.
right. So my question with the Trinity
Yes.
is what would you say to those who have a hard time trusting God the Father because they don't have a good earthly father?
Boy, that's a tough one because for me, that's been part of my story, truly. And I think that's the hard part sometimes is how do you trust the father when your own father was a challenge?
Mhm,
And so to me, I would counsel them or maybe share with them, you have to eliminate dad on earth and you have to try to remember and try to focus on the fact that God is not your dad.
mm,
God is not your earthly dad. Um, and that because your earthly dad may have let you down, may have disappointed you, may have left you. I have a good friend named Tom who has a crazy story about his dad never coming to pick him up. And he would sit out on the porch and wait and wait and wait for his dad to show up, and he never did. And so I think sometimes people think that they can then somehow put their earthly father into the box of God and apply the same expectations and the same level of love or not love. And I think that's where or that's where I have been, I should say, malformed. And I've really had to eliminate that God is true, even though sometimes I don't feel like he's true. God is loving, even though sometimes I don't always feel like he's loving. God is always there. And I think those three things I do constantly have to remind myself because, you know, I'll tell you one story in particular that comes to mind. I was playing golf one time with some friends. Uh, my one of my buddies from elementary school, ironically enough, so we're still friends. So that's kind of a cool story. But he brought his sons with him that day, so we were playing like a foursome. And so him and his sons they hit, and then I'm hitting last, fourth, by the way, because again, I don't like things in three. So I'm hitting fourth, and they hit, and they start walking down, and I say, "Hey guys, I'm going to hit." So they're kind of away from where I'm hitting, so I don't hit them. And I hit this amazing shot, just absolutely gorgeous shot, and I start walking down and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, did you guys see it? Did you see it?" And all three of them turn around. They're like, "No, no, we didn't. We didn't see it." I was like, "Oh man, how did you not see that? It was amazing. Like, look, it's on the green right now. It's like 3 feet from the cup. Like, oh my gosh, so incredible." And so anyway, they're like just kind of bugged that I'm, maybe yelling and screaming and freaking out. And so they keep walking. And I was really disappointed because they didn't see it. Nobody saw it. I saw it, nobody else did. And I literally remember this just clear as day. I'm walking down, it's a great day in Southern Oregon, and I'm walking down and I hear this voice inside me that isn't my voice, that isn't, I don't know if it's God or not, but I did hear clearly, very clearly say, "Well, I saw it.
Mm,
Is that not good enough?"
mm,
And I was like, well, yeah, of course it is.
mm,
And then I, maybe went into this prayer moment as I'm, not like dropped to my knees or, just quietly in my head. I started praying. I thought, well, how many other moments have you seen that maybe you just never said anything?
mm,
How many other moments have you? I mean, because that was the big thing when I was a kid is my dad didn't see the moments. He didn't he didn't participate in the big moments of my life. And so this amazing shots, this, whatever, this amazing thing that maybe I accomplished at school or when I was running cross country and track, also in high school, he didn't see any of those moments. And I was always like, why couldn't you see him? Why couldn't you be there? And then I started to think, God's been there the whole time. He's seen every moment. And to me, that's the big difference. Is there could always be disappointment with the earthly father because he wasn't there. He didn't see. But there should never be disappointment in the God Father because he's seen every moment. He was there the moment I was born. He breathed life into me. He's been there for every moment. And so, how can I be disappointed in that when I
mm,
think back to those moments?
mm. That was really beautiful. Thank you. I I hear that a lot, and I'm sure you do too, that it's it's hard to trust a God that refers to him as a father. He refers to himself as a father. I think Jesus the Son, just generalities probably like that would be the easiest one. Um and then the Holy Spirit is like, I don't really get it, but it's not upsetting. But God the Father, I think, might have a few things that we contextually maybe bring our own hurt into it if our father wasn't great, or even if he was there. I mean, he's still human, right? And so
Right.
to kind of see that differently. But also I feel like I've heard a lot lately that people are seeing God the Father more of just the Old Testament, and if you just pull out certain parts of the Old Testament, it might feel like, oh, he's really mad.
Well, he had reason to be mad, he had reasons to be mad. But I hear what you're saying. Like I get flack from my friends at church and even the people on the worship team at our church because the song by Chris Tomlin, it's one of my favorite songs to hate on because it says, you know, you're a good father. It's who you are. It's like, well, if you're really that good of a father, you would have stopped this from happening. If
Mm,
you're really that good of a father, why isn't this happening? And then somebody said to me, they pushed on that. They said, well, if he's that good of a father and he's not meeting every single need and want you have, that makes him a genie, not a god.
mm,
I'm like, oh, right. So do I want a genie or do I want a god? Because going back to your three, if I have a genie, I only get three wishes and that's all, I'm out. But with God, there's so much more unlimitedness because he's not limited to the three.
mm.
He's omnipresent. He's everywhere at once. So
Is that what you tell yourself when you get
yeah,
upset with the good father, is the genie thing, or
I don't know. Yeah, I think when I get upset with God, I have to again go back to, well, one, why am I upset with him? Right?
Mm,
Is it because he somehow let me down? Is he somehow disappointed me? And then I have to remind myself, well, if I like him in the good, I gotta like him in the bad too, right?
mm,
I can't have it both ways.
mm,
I can't say, oh, you're just awful and you're mean and you're just this kid on the hill burning ants with a magnifying glass, right? I have to take the good with the bad. And I think that's true in any relationship. You do have to take the good with the bad. But yes, I will say that viewing God from the lens of through my dad has been truly a challenge. But again, to me, I have to separate the two. And I have anytime I catch myself doing it, I'm like, wait a second, not the same.
mhm,
It's not the same person. It's truly almost like, I'll give you an example. I in middle school, this is a really long time ago. So way before my wife. So in middle school, I liked this girl. Her name was Amanda, and she was very pretty. And I took, you know, took everything in me to finally talk to her in sixth period social studies. She, you know, she sat two seats in front of me, and it took me like half the year to finally go up and just talk to her because she was in my mind just out of my league, just super pretty, right? And I finally did, and she was absolutely awful to me. She was. It's middle school. I'm sure I smelled. I don't know, but she just was really mean to me. But the thing is that for a long time, anytime I met an Amanda after that, I would put that Amanda into that girl's place from sixth period social studies. That Amanda. That's not fair to anybody, Amanda, that I may meet in the future. It's a good thing my wife's name's not Amanda. By the way, it's Elizabeth, not Amanda. But my point is that we can't do that. And I think I've done that, and I hope others don't do that, is we take somebody's impression, something that's happened to us, and we immediately think, well, this is God's fault. Well, wait a second. How do you know it's his fault? Well, if he's all powerful, he should have stopped it. Well, what if he's using it to make us grow or using it to help me grow?
mm,
Should he stop the growth? No.
mm.
Hope
Oh,
that
I
makes
like
sense.
that story. That was a good story about Amanda. What a great way to see that in a different light. And I also liked how you said you have to keep reminding yourself, because sometimes I think God gives us a full, oh, I'm free of that and I've never done that again. I've never had to think about that. And other times it might always be kind of a struggle where you have to be like, oh, yes, I have to forgive this person again. Yes, I have to again. Yes, again. And just give that over. So I appreciate your candidness with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I love talking to you, and I've loved hearing some of your story and your testimony and discipleship and all these words that we use in Christianity. I always end mine with three different questions. One is, what is your favorite Bible verse or story?
Well, I'll give you both. My favorite Bible verse always comes back to Acts 20:24, which says, "For I consider my life worth nothing to me."
Mm,
Apostle Paul talking here. If I may finish the race and complete the task the Lord Jesus has given me, the task of testifying to the gospel.
mm,
That was given to me my sophomore year of high school by my youth leader
mm,
because I had just started running track, and I wrote it on my spikes, my track spikes. I wrote it on my running shoes. I wrote it everywhere.
mhm,
And anytime I go to a gathering where I have to like sign my name to like somebody's card, like maybe a wedding thing or whatever, I'll generally, you know, scribe that somewhere. In fact, our rental house, now that we're in a new house, our rental house actually has it inscribed in the concrete because we had some concrete work done. So I had somebody actually scribe it in there. So I don't know if my renters are believers or not, but they're going to look up that verse and go, oh, well, look at that. He's testifying. My favorite story, boy, that is a hard one, but I'm going to pick, I really love the woman at the well in John chapter 4,
Mhm,
verse 4, where Jesus talking to the woman at the well.
mhm.
I think second only to the woman caught in the act of adultery, where Jesus is writing on the ground. I'd love to know what he wrote.
What
I
did he
just
write? What did
I
he
don't I
write?
want to know. I want to know. So that's what I want to know. So that I know I gave you three. You should be happy. I gave you three there. I gave
Okay,
you two
what about
stories and a verse. So
so what about the woman at the well? What speaks to you with that?
well, I think a couple things speaks to me. The first thing is one, it's the first time, as far as I know, Bible people can check me and fact check me and call me I'm wrong and tell me that I'm okay. But I think it's the first time he declares unequivocally, no kind of, analogy or, parables. It's the first time he declares that he is the Messiah.
Mhm,
So that's powerful to me. The second is how empathetic he was to her.
mhm,
And even with the woman caught in the act of adultery, he did not allow anything to derail his message.
mhm,
He was there for her.
mhm,
He was there for her. And to me, I think that's what it's all about. Is I got to be there for people in some form or fashion. I have to be there. I have to put myself in their place. And maybe that's why I do what I do with my show is I really try hard to be in their shoes. So anyway,
No, that's good. And you see, even though those were small things, he really, I wanna say, discipled them because
mhm.
he dove straight into what was really going on in their lives, right? And
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think most of us could dive that fast, that quickly with someone,
no,
but I mean, he got into the nitty-gritty of what was going on with them.
100%. And
Yeah,
I think that's the beauty of who Jesus was and who Jesus is.
yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
What are you grateful for?
I mean, listen, I don't know how she's done it. She's done it for 23 years, more than that. She started doing it in 1997, December 12th, 1997, at about 8:20 in the morning. I am grateful every day for my wife. And I know that sounds corny and maybe cliche to some, but outside of my salvation in Christ, I am truly grateful for her. She is the rock that stabilizes me. She is the love of my life. She is the one I wake up thinking about and I go to bed dreaming about. She's just beautiful inside and out, and truly without her, I'm probably a bum down on the street living in a van down by the river looking for a motivational gift, you know?
I do like the SNL
Yeah,
link right there.
yeah,
For all those who are old enough to remember
yeah.
that.
Matt Foley, I'm a motivational speaker. Yeah,
No, that was lovely. I think we actually need more of that in our world is people building their husband or their wife up. So,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
What kindness have you shown or what kindness have you received in the last week?
Yeah. Um, well, it hasn't been the last week, but I'll tell you about about a year ago. This one really rocked my world, and I'll make it quick because I know we got like 9 minutes left, so I'll try to go fast. So I work at a body shop. That's my real job. Not podcasting, unfortunately, is not my real job. But anyway, we had this guy come in, Asian guy, didn't speak any English, and so I was using Google Translate. We were going back and forth, and it was a really hot day because it was last summer. And I remember saying to him, because I have some water in my fridge just off camera, and I said, "Hey man, can I get you some water?" And I just remember him handing him the bottle and him just weeping. And I asked him, I said, why are you weeping? It's just water, you know? And he said, I've been in the country now for 3 years, and this is the kindest thing anybody has ever done for me. I don't
Oh my.
understand why. And I said, well, here's why. And I told him, I kind of very succinctly through Google Translate, which is really hard because I'm pretty articulate, but to have to go to a phone to write it out to then it was, and I don't do that very well. I'm not very good, skilled when it comes to writing things. I'm more of the talker, as you can probably gather. But in that moment, I thought, man, God, you're just really stripping everything away that I have in my toolbox, and you're making me go out of my comfort zone to really share the gospel with this guy. But I did.
Mm,
And I'll tell you what, he came back later that day and just like hugged me, wept, and said, I had to get you a coffee. I don't even know if you drink coffee, but here you go. You were so kind to me. And to me, that's what it's about every day is looking for ways to show grace, looking for ways to give grace. And I have this little rock on my desk. I don't know if you'll use the video or not, but there's a rock on my in my hand right now that says in pink writing, grace. And to me, I look at it every day and I think to myself, who am I going to give grace to? And it's not like a choice. It's not like I'm picking a kickball team like, okay, I'm going to get this kid and then this kid and then this kid. No, it's the constant reminder to me to say everyone gets grace today. Like Oprah used to, right? You get a car, you get a car, you get a car. Grace is that way for me. It's like you get grace, you get grace. I'm giving you grace today and I'm not being selective on it. And that experience truly taught me
mm,
that moment is to give grace and to give water where you can. So there you go.
mm. That's good. Wow. That's really good. Well, Neil, thanks for being on. I appreciate your time and I appreciate you telling part of your story. I think it's really going to resonate with some people. Um, Maybe the part about a father or just the testimony and the discipleship. And maybe someone's like, I really need to get into discipleship. I really need to figure this out. And so I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, join us next time on Ordinary People, Extraordinary Things, where your story is His glory.